What's the happiest memory of your life? Growing up, it was just me and my mom in a cramped apartment where the air always seemed thick, mostly with cigarette smoke and the kind of lies you don't realize are lies until you're older. She told me my dad was a drunk, a deadbeat, someone who walked out when I was born and never looked back. I believed her. I built a blurry image of him in my mind, a faceless man with shaking hands and slurred speech, who left two people behind without a backward glance. Mom was my world, funny when she was sober. She'd teach me to braid my hair, hum old songs in the kitchen while the spaghetti boiled. But by the time I hit my teens, the drinking took over. Her laughter turned to rants, dishes broken, words slurred. I'd hide in my room counting empty bottles, wondering what happened to the mom who made me pancakes with smiley faces. At 18, I couldn't take it anymore. Her rages were constant. "You're just like him," she'd hiss, eyes bloodshot, glassy. I packed a bag, took my waitress tip jar savings, and left. First, I crashed with friends. Then I found a dingy basement room in a city 3 hours away. I was free, but I was also alone. Mom never called. I didn't either. Some nights I'd dream of her laughing, holding my hand. I'd wake up aching with guilt, but I kept going. Double shifts, saving for art classes I never quite made time to take. Then last spring, the phone rang. It was a police officer. Flat voice. My mom had crashed her car on the highway. Drunk. She was in a coma, critical condition. They needed a next of kin. I left work, the diner grease clinging to my clothes. Took a 12-hour bus. My hands didn't stop shaking. I braced for the cold hospital corridors, the beeping machines, the weight of being the only one there. But I wasn't alone. In the ICU waiting room, near a vending machine, stood a man I'd never seen. Mid-40s, graying hair, kind eyes that looked like mine. He turned and said, "Emily." My breath caught. I knew before he even told me. He was my dad, Tom. The hospital had called an old emergency contact. I'd braced myself for the deadbeat of my mother's stories. But he smelled like coffee and leather. And when he hugged me, he cried. We sat there for hours under the fluorescent hum. He told me everything. How mom had walked out with me at birth, afraid of his stability, his teaching job, his quiet life. She'd vanished, cut off contact. He'd searched, sent letters she never gave me, hired lawyers who couldn't find us. He pulled out a photo, me, tiny and swaddled in his arms, his smile wide, eyes glowing. "I never stopped loving you," he said. And that was the happiest moment of my life. Not the bus ride, not even finding out my mom had survived, but that sentence. That moment in a buzzing hospital waiting room when a man I thought was a ghost looked at me with tears in his eyes and said, "I never stopped loving you." I cried. Not for my mother in the ICU, but for the years stolen from me, for the birthday cards I never saw, for the dad I didn't get to grow up with, for the truth finally breaking through all the fog. He told me about his garden. I told him about painting. He held my hand and said, "I'm here now, for as long as you want me." Mom woke up months later, frail, apologetic, promising she'd change, but I couldn't trust her. I had my dad now, and I had that moment. That's the one I keep locked in my heart.